Michkov is here.
He is.
He's actually here. And that's where I want to pick up today, because honestly, I wanted to talk about this yesterday, but we were having too much fun asking Charlie.
You're just getting an enormous kick out of this.
Yeah.
Like this Twitter thing is no big deal.
It is no big
and you
deal.
just get the biggest kick out of it.
I honestly, what entertains me is that you entertain these, you respond to you are a great Twitter follow and a great person to comment at because you respond to so many people. I ignore so many people on Twitter, and I clearly don't have the following you do because I don't do that. But we were just having a little fun asking why Charlie hates Matvei Michkov so much. And I kind of forgot to get to honestly, where I wanted to get to in that conversation. Okay. But luckily, we have a daily show, so I can just do it today.
There you go.
So something I wanted the Michkov discussion to lead into yesterday, I think that I missed a little bit. I saw some people take objection to that piece of the Flair interview where you talk to him about each of the prospects, and obviously number one of the forwards and number one overall, Matvei Michkov. And he said something along the lines of, there will be times Torts does things to Michkov, whether it's coaching, benching, whatever, that it's going to irk fans, right? And I think fans take that so much as, he's trying to turn him into Garnett Hathaway. And that's not what's being said here. And that's kind of what kicked off that whole Twitter discussion is you can label him whatever you want. You want to call him very good. You want to call him elite for his age and whatever. He's not a finished product. And for him to meet his ceiling, he has to improve on certain things. Some of those things are going to be fun, becoming even more dynamic in the offensive zone, figuring out the NHL defense so that he can exploit it as an offensive wizard that we expect him to be. Sure. Some of those things are not going to be fun, where you need to be on the counter rush in terms of your neutral zone alignment, your assignments, how to defend your point guy, where you're supposed to go to get the out, all that little stuff that just goes into playing a system and playing in the best league in the world. Mm-hmm. That's good, though. Having Michkov know and do all those things is great. And Brent Flair pointed out specific issues that maybe that Michkov was maybe able to get away with in the KHL, because especially on a team like Sochi, where it's him, everyone else.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the I'm thinking of the Moneyball quiz. There's the good teams, there's the bad team, 50 layers of crap, and then there's us.
Especially on Sochi, where it's this is a minor league team, basically, but they're just in the KHL because the good teams need someone to play.
Yeah, they need somebody to beat up on.
Yeah, he's able to extend a shift 2 minutes because who's telling him no? He's able to just hang out in the neutral zone because who's telling him no? In the NHL, you simply cannot cherry pick like that.
Not to that degree.
Not to that degree. But yes, is he going to be able to quote unquote cheat? Absolutely. Because
Travis Konechny does it all the time.
That's the offense. The offense is, to borrow a phrase from the AV coaching staff, when the puck is at one of those mesh points, the weak side winger takes off in hopes of getting an outlet pass.
Right. You're stretching the defense.
That is the acceptable cheating.
Yeah, you're stretching the neutral zone forecheck, and you're basically forcing them to account for the fact that someone is trying to get behind you. And hopefully that opens things up for everybody if it's done right.
And the reason that they started doing that last year, John Tortorella told us it's where we got the Mad Russian nickname from.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
That's where it came from, was John Tortorella saying, well, pretty soon we're going to have the Mad Russian here, and we want to, kind of exploit what he does well. He's going to be able to do that. It's just when the other team has possession of the puck in your defensive zone, you can't be behind the defense just hanging out. And you can't just extend a shift 2 minutes because you feel like it, because this is the NHL. Now you're going to be burned for 3 more shifts.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And these are things he had problems with Kevin Hayes doing. It's a problem that any coach in the NHL, you could have the NHL version of Mike McDaniel.
I think Rob Brindamore would be annoyed by things like that.
The most progressive coaches in the league. You could have the NHL version of Mike McDaniel, who is blazed off his ass and dancing to the arena music at stoppages. If you were to take a 2-minute shift or just hang out in the neutral zone and not even pretend to defend, the coach would be upset by that. You would be coached not to do that. Right. And that's really what Brent Flahr is talking about. Now, is there little stuff that's going to annoy us because it's John Tortorella? Yeah. He's going to push buttons because that's what he does. But in all, these are good things. These are turning Matvei Michkov into the best possible player he can be. And to be annoyed, like, I just saw examples like, well, what if they took Alex Ovechkin's aggressiveness away? Then we wouldn't have the greatest goal scorer ever. It's like, but we're not doing that. It's very clear by the way that they changed the offense last year that they still want, yeah, man, you see that puck and we have a chance to win a battle and get it out of the zone. You take off and hope to get that outlet pass. Absolutely. We're not taking away his aggressiveness. It's just the little things that will lead to losing in the NHL. You're trying to take away from a young player before he develops bad habits. It's one of the reasons they're so excited he's here at this age and not at 22, because now you can actually coach that stuff out of him before it has a chance to really set in.
And here's the point. This is really gets to the heart of the debate I had on Twitter 2 days ago. 2 days ago and yesterday, because it bled into yesterday as well. You mentioned Alexander Ovechkin. That's a really good player to bring up, and I'll tell you why. Because one of the reasons why Washington did not have to really put any reins on Alex Ovechkin is because he showed up and his rookie year scored 52 goals and 106 points. If Matvei Michkov in the first 2 months of the year is scoring at a point per game pace and is at a 50-goal pace, yeah, you know what, Torts, you probably should just let him do what he does. And if he does that, that will be amazing, and that will be the best case scenario, and we will be thrilled. But I am not ready yet to say that Michkov is going to show up and dominate to the degree that Alex Ovechkin is. While I get the sense that there are people on Twitter who very much are expecting him to show up and dominate to that degree. So for them, because they're already assuming that, well, Michkov's going to show up and be great immediately. And the idea of changing anything about him is stupid because he's already great and he's going to be great, and I just know. And if you're that confident, then sure, you're going to think that even the hint that the Flyers are going to change anything about a player that you already view as perfect, essentially, is stupid. I totally understand why that would be your thought process. My view is that I do not know if Matvei Michkov is going to show up and be incredible right off the bat. In fact, if I were to bet, I would bet he is not going to show up and be Alexander Ovechkin in his first season. If he is, then yes. If he's scoring a goal a game and John Tortorella benches him because he turned a 40-second shift into a 60-second shift, yes, that will be nuts. But if he is hovering at half point per game pace and showing flashes, but there are edges to his game that need to be rounded off, and Torts decides he's going to bench him in the third period because Michkov did something stupid, I don't think that's unreasonable because I want the best version of Michkov. If Michkov shows up in year one and is already the best version of Michkov and is already one of the 10 best players in hockey, and the most optimistic people on Twitter are correct that he's just that good, then yeah, let's not go crazy nitpicking. But I don't think it's reasonable to expect that he's going to be Ovechkin right off the jump. And if he's not, he's going to be in need of some work to hopefully get him to a point where he is, best case scenario, Ovechkin.
Forget the total number of goals. Alex Ovechkin, Hockey Reference, is having a hell of a time loading right now. But in his rookie year, Ovi, in his first 15 games, had 5 2-goal games.
That's nuts.
A third of his first month in the league.
Yeah, if Michkov gets off to that start, then the idea of remedial Tortsism,
who cares?
Yeah, that's nuts.
Fire the coach and make Matvei the coach.
Yeah.
Like, he's clearly smarter than everyone in the organization. And also, all right, maybe not Bedard, but the other teams that passed on Michkov, those organizations should fire everyone too.
Should, yeah.
He might.
If that's the way it plays out, yeah.
If that's the way it plays out, so many people should lose jobs that it's almost unfathomable. And maybe it happens. But like you said, probably not, because this is the greatest goal scorer of all time. If not for his rookie year being locked out, a half-season lockout in 2013, and 2 COVID years, he'd already have Gretzky's record. He'd be just piling on right now or chilling back in Russia.
Yeah.
Like, one of those two things would be happening if not for, like, we're talking about he's the greatest at this single thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. And
maybe we're lucky.
hey, if he's that good, then the idea of Torts messing with him, I would agree, is batshit. But I am operating in the assumption that he's probably not going to be that good right off the jump. And again, part of this just goes into the fact, and this is what I was saying on Twitter yesterday, is that this is not a scenario where Matvei Michkov is coming over after finishing a season where at age 19 in the KHL, he scored 70 points in 50 games, where he was one of the true best players in the KHL. He was very good. He was very good, especially for his age. He was great. And even without the age factor, he was very good. And you could, I guess, argue that he was close to elite if you're accounting for the fact that wasn't on a great team, didn't have great line mates, things like that. Fair. You can make that case. I don't think that is a slam dunk. That is one of those things you can debate on a show like this. But sure, if you want to give him, say, all right, well, weight his numbers a little higher because his line mates stunk and because his team stunk. Fair, but we can debate that. My point is that he wasn't one of the best players in the KHL, and the best players in the KHL are not necessarily great NHL players. Like, I look at the KHL numbers. The 4th leading scorer in the KHL, who scored 77 points in 66 games, both more points and a higher point per game rate than Matvei Michkov last year in the same league, was Jordan Wheel.
I have him at 2nd. Was there guys better than him?
I have him on Elite Prospects at 4.
Okay.
Behind Nikita Gusev, Reed Boucher, and Nikolai Goldobin. Jordan Wheel was 4th with 77 points.
Either way, yes. We're talking about Jordan Wheel.
Point being is, like, we all saw Jordan Wheel. Okay, we know Jordan Wheel is not a great NHL player. No. And Matvei Michkov, at least by the raw scoring totals, did not outplay Jordan Wheel. That's what I'm saying when I say that for Michkov to be as good as we hope he's going to be, it's not like we can just take this version of Michkov, bring him over into the NHL, and he's definitely going to be the best player in the NHL. Because if he wasn't the best player in the KHL and players who scored more than him washed out of the NHL, he's going to probably need some development. And I think development will help him get there. Yeah. I am optimistic that Matvei Michkov is ultimately going to be a really, really good NHL player. I'm just not ready to say he's a really, really good NHL player yet, based on what he's done in an inferior league where he wasn't one of the 3 best players in an inferior league.
I always thought Jordan Wheel had a 25, 30 goal, just one. That would get him.
I like Jordan Wheel a lot.
That would get him like
He's a great guy.
One good overpaid 4-year contract.
I enjoyed covering him. Really nice guy. Very pretty smart. I had some really interesting, like, off the record conversations with him about, like, the world. Good dude. And I liked his skill set, but it just never really worked out for him to be a, legitimate top 9 NHL forward.
Yeah. I always
great KHL player though.
Yeah, and like I always thought he had just one great year in him that would get him overpaid for like the next 4, and turns out he had that year, but in the KHL, and that's something we touched on yesterday too. The KHL is not exactly, it's one of the top leagues in the world. You want to call it second, you want to call it third, whatever. It's not what you think it was a few years ago, because there's like no Finns, no Swedes. A lot of foreign players afraid to go, like, because, it's a country at war. Mm-hmm. It's a weaker league. It is a bit of a different league than the league the KHL, that's almost the NHL. Sort of. Yes and no.
It's a really good pro league.
It's a very good pro league. It is one of the best leagues in the world, but is not the high-level league that it was a few years ago.
Yeah, it's not the league where when Vegas got Shapachev to come over, we all said, oh, man, they might have their 1C because he's a veteran who's a great KHL player, and the KHL isn't that far below the NHL because they're throwing these massive contracts at guys to bring him over here. It is weaker. And again, I'm not saying I don't think Michkov is going to be good. I'm not saying I don't think Michkov is going to be great. I'm not saying Michkov isn't going to be a superstar. I'm just saying don't go into this convinced that he's going to be that immediately, or that he's even definitely going to be that. There is a high likelihood he's going to be very good. It's just not a certainty. That's all I was saying.
I will go ahead and think it, but like, it's not going to be the consensus opinion.
Yeah, it's not.
And maybe you end up being right. And like we talked about yesterday, if that's
great.
If that's the most important thing in the world to you, congratulations.
Cool.
You can throw yourself a parade.
Yeah.
But listen, I'm so freaking hopeful. But that is like acknowledging, because I just need it. Like, I need this to be true, because if it's not, we are screwed. Like, if this isn't true, and I'm not saying like right away, because it's, they were like on Flyers Daily today, they were doing the kind of what people were accusing you of, throwing the cold water a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's what you're doing. You're just stating your opinion. But it's like, Connor Bedard was supposed to be the guy. He was all right last year.
Yeah, good year.
He was okay.
Good year.
He was fine. He won the Calder. But it wasn't like it
wasn't Alex
the
Ovechkin rookie year.
Yeah,
when
like,
Ovechkin and Crosby both broke 100 points.
Yeah, like, we're two of the best players in the league immediately. Like, Connor Bedard was very good. No one would confuse him with Nathan McKinnon or like Connor McDavid. Like, that's not who he was yet. Maybe that's not who Michkov is. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
But I'd be surprised. It's going to take a little time. And honestly, this is the period where I'm cool with Tortorella coaching him.
Yeah, exactly.
Down the line, when they're trying to win games, I don't know. I don't know if Tortorella is that guy. He hasn't been in a long time.
I don't think he's going to be here when they turn.
I don't honestly think, like, you look at his age, you look at his contract, you look at how it typically ends with him. Probably not, and that's good. Like,
I think that's part of the plan.
Good. Yeah, like, I think it's part of the plan.
It's all
for
part
him
of the plan.
To not be the coach when this team is doing that thing a couple of years from now. But for right now, I actually like Tortorella in this role, because if you mix what we believe to be superstar potential with getting all those little things sorted out, you have an excellent player.
Yeah, I made the case in that Twitter conversation of the distinction between Austin Matthews, you two guys taking the same draft, Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine. Both guys came in. I mean, Austin Matthews was the consensus number one, but there were scattered people saying, well, Laine might be better. He was real good in the World Juniors for Finland. You know, it was this idea of, well, man, he could be a game-changing goal scorer. Patrick Laine obviously has had an interesting career. You know, he went in the player assistance program. He's missed a lot of time due to injury. But you are correct in saying that when he plays, he tends to score a lot.
Scores a lot of goals.
Scores a lot of goals. Austin Matthews obviously also scores a lot of goals. The big difference between the two players, aside from the injuries, set the injuries aside, just talk about who they are when they play. Austin Matthews scores a ton of goals. And also, the Maple Leafs completely destroy the opposition from a shot and chance differential standpoint when he's on the ice. He gets Selke votes. That is Austin Matthews.
What was he, second or third in Selke?
He gets Selke votes.
Yeah.
Patrick Laine only scores. That's all he does. He is a liability. Otherwise, he scores a ton of points, and he's valuable because he scores goals and he scores points, and he's an offensive wizard. If being harder on Michkov this year, and obviously Michkov isn't a center like Matthews is, I get that. But if being harder on Michkov this year gets him closer to the Matthews where he didn't have to sacrifice offense, but he became better as a two-way player, and now he's just one of the 4 or 5 best players in the world, period. If it gets him closer to that versus just being a guy who only scores and that's it, like Laine, yeah, push Michkov a little bit this year if it makes him a 99 player by NHL rating 3 years down the road versus a 92.
Perfect. That is a perfect way to put it. It's wringing every possible thing out.
Yes.
Like, let's get him to the ceiling.
Yes.
Let's break through the ceiling and make him better than we even thought. Like, what if he's not just a willing defender, but like decent at it? You know, like, look at what has happened. Look at what has happened with Travis Konechny, where you added just a little bit of defense, and guess what it's created? More offense. Like the transition game, which is obviously what Michkov is going to excel at, especially early. If he has more transition opportunities because there's defensive plays being made, that's going to lead to more goals and assists. Like, it just is.
And no one wants Michkov to become a defensive specialist.
No
one wants that. And the Flyers don't want. John Tortorella, as as bonkers as he is, definitely does not want that.
And that's what gets me to like that Morgan Frost point. It's like, yeah, man, he's really worked on all those little parts of his game and he's coming around. He's like, cool, man. He needs to score. Like, he knows what players need to do to be successful. And I don't think he has this. I think there's this misconception of John Tortorella where it's like he wants everybody to be this cookie cutter kind of two-way, hard-nosed player. And it's like, yes, he does want you up top blocking shots no matter who you are. But also, if you were that type of player, if the other guy, if you're the opposite winger blocks a shot, he wants you at the red line already looking for that pass.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the difference, I think, in perception versus reality.
And I think, too, and this just speaks to the changes he made as a coach, I think there probably was a time when he was that stereotype. Yeah. When it was, pre-lockout, Tampa Bay, when he battled with Le Cavalier. Yeah. I think that Torts probably was more in line with the stereotype. The guy I go back to with Torts, why I do think this can work, and there's part of me that's worried that they're going to clash and it's going to be a problem, because John Tortorella is John Tortorella.
Yes.
And Matvei Michkov is a very headstrong, confident person who potentially might not take well to criticism. We shall see. I am a bit concerned. I am not going to stop being concerned until these guys are buddy-buddy playing golf together, and then it's like, okay, cool, you guys are great. That said, I do think, where was I going with this? Sorry.
They're the type of coach Tortorella was versus now.
Right. The guy who I come back to is Artemi Panarin. He did not put the shackles on Artemi Panarin at Columbus. Like, not even a little bit. He let Artemi Panarin be Artemi Panarin. And I remember one quote that Tortorella had about Panarin where he basically said that one thing about Panarin that I will always remember, and this speaks very much to the shift thing, I've never seen a player be that effective tired. Where it'll be 30 seconds into a shift and I'll be standing on the bench thinking, oh God, he should be getting off the ice. And then it'll be 40 seconds into a shift and Panarin will win a race to a loose puck, go on a breakaway and score. And Torts will just be like, all right, well, I guess he just can do it. He's just one of those guys. And I think if Michkov proves to be one of those guys, he's going to get the longer leash. He's going to earn it.
We all silly like the mayor.